Betsy DeVos has been confirmed as Secretary of Education of the United States. But it's not just grizzly bears anymore. The real work begins. So to help me unpack what DeVos's confirmation as Education Secretary means for education policy and our nation's students, I've got with me Catherine Brown. She's the Vice President of Education and Related Things here at the Center for American Progress. Catherine, thanks so much for joining the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here on Talk Poverty Radio.
So I'm making light of things. I mentioned the grizzly bear piece. There were a lot of entertaining moments in the last several weeks leading up to DeVos's confirmation, but it wasn't all entertainment. I mean, there's actually a lot of, we should be appropriately serious here. Remind us, who is Betsy DeVos? What's her background? What do we know about her?
That's right, Rebecca. I mean, a lot of us in the education policy community watched in horror during her confirmation hearing. It wasn't entertaining at all to see that she really didn't know basic information about education policy and some of the most important laws that govern our schools in our country, like the Individuals for Disabilities in Education Act. She's definitely an outside the beltway choice. She's been a lobbyist for school vouchers for most of her career in education. She's a billionaire, and she has served on the board of the American Federation of Children, and in that role served as a philanthropist and invested tremendous amounts of money in state legislator races and advocacy campaigns, mostly designed at privatizing public schools. She's never managed a large organization. She's never worked in public schools. She's never sent her children to public schools. She herself has never attended public schools. So she is really an unusual selection for this job of overseeing our nation's public school system.
Unusual being a diplomatic word. I commend you for toning down a lot of the things I'm sure you could have said. But you mentioned a few threads there. I'm not gonna focus so much on the pay-to-play allegations, her family's wealth, and did she effectively buy this position? I'm not going to focus on kind of some of those aspects, although they have been raised and there are serious allegations there. But I do want to focus on some of the policy positions that either she has taken or that we believe from her background she may take. So you mentioned vouchers, and I want to start there. It's a word that gets thrown around in a lot of contexts, including in the education conversation and debate. But help us understand, what is the voucher proposal when it comes to education policy? Who does it potentially help? Who would lose out? Give us the background.
Yeah, I mean, vouchers take a lot of different forms, so it's a good question that you're asking. At its base, what a voucher policy is money that either goes to parents, to children themselves, to corporations, or to individuals who are funding what are often called scholarship programs. And they allow students to take those resources and exit the public school system and go to a private school. That's really what we're talking about here. They're often framed as a way to help students from low-income communities who are zoned for failing schools to exit and go to higher performing schools. But what we've seen from the research is, they don't actually lead students who get the vouchers to go to higher performing schools. That's been found overwhelmingly over decades of research on these policies. And what they do is leave schools that have higher concentrations of kids living in poverty, kids with disabilities, kids with special needs, stuck in higher need public school systems. So, overall, the people that they really disadvantage are exactly the students that the rhetoric would lead you to believe that they're helping.
And they often get framed as about school choice. It's providing students with choice. Are there concerns about what the sort of macro results would be, not just the students who get left behind, but what a scaled up voucher policy could mean for our public education system writ large?
Absolutely. And, I think one of the other concerns that doesn't get raised enough is the fact that private schools don't have the same civil rights laws and the same responsibilities to serve kids with special needs. So, for example, private schools select the students that attend their schools. They can say, no, we're not going to have this student. And that often is going to be the students that are coming from more disadvantaged backgrounds that have greater needs. They don't often have special services to support those kids, and they can expel kids if they have behavioral problems or other issues. So what what you're left with is a system that is, abandoning the kids who most need to have a high quality option because that is their chance at succeeding in life.
While pretending to be a policy that helps those students.
Exactly.
You also mentioned the IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which is a federal law, which, if in case Secretary DeVos is listening, will help her understand what it is, a federal law that ensures, it actually requires that all students in this country, including students with disabilities, are entitled to a free and appropriate public education, just like all other students, sometimes called a FAPE, free and appropriate public education, to help Betsy DeVos remember that one next time she's asked about it. So what might DeVos's confirmation and her leadership at the Department of Education mean for students with disabilities in this country?
Well, I think that's a great question, and we did not get a lot of insights into how she would handle this particular enforcement of this incredibly important law, which, as you say, is one of the most major education laws in this country. It serves 6.5 million children, provides $11 billion a year in education funding. She didn't know that it was actually a set of requirements that was not optional. What she said at her hearing is that she thought states could decide whether or not to enforce the IDEA Act. I think that comes from her advocacy in vouchers, because the other thing we know about vouchers, which I should have mentioned earlier, is that students with disabilities often have to sign away their rights that are protected under IDEA when they sign up for a voucher program, and it can be kind of insidious. Sometimes the districts don't make clear that you're signing away your rights when you enter this program. So I think that's the view that she's taking when she's thinking about IDEA, but it's really troublesome because there are millions of students that rely on these protections for a free and appropriate public education, as you say, and they're likely to get left behind under her vision, though we don't really know. I mean, she was very unclear about what she was going to do when she became Secretary of Education. She was very evasive.
And it's worth doing a little bit of a kind of a getting in a time machine for a moment and thinking back to what education looked like for students with disabilities before the IDEA was in place. I know if we had a number of my friends and colleagues in the disability community here speaking with us right now, that many of them would actually recount personal experiences and experiences of their parents and of their colleagues in literally being denied education, being told that they could not actually attend school, not being mainstreamed, not being put in classes where that they would be more than capable of performing right alongside other students, but instead being treated differently and being effectively segregated out of public education in this country. And that's what Betsy DeVos appears completely unaware of.
That's right. One of my first exposures to this was I worked for then Senator Hillary Clinton when she was a senator from New York, and she often would tell the story about her first job out of law school when she worked for the Children's Defense Fund, and she worked in New Bedford, Massachusetts. And one of the things that she did was to walk door to door, interview families, and identify parents of kids with disabilities and try to reconcile why were there more kids living in these communities than there were enrolled in the schools. And the differential was students with disabilities who were systematically being told by their schools, oh, we can't serve you. Oh, your needs are too great. Oh, we can't help you. And often these were kids in wheelchairs or kids with physical disabilities that had absolute, high abilities to fulfill their potential if they could just make accommodations in the physical facility. And so IDEA has made a huge difference in those kids' lives. We know that those kids now have access, are required to have access to a free, high-quality education. And we've seen tremendous improvements in their outcomes even in the last 15 years.